Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we? I hope everyone's doing well. I can see some people tuned in right now from a few different platforms. And I have to say the platform I'm most excited about is Rumble. That's right. Let me know if you're watching on Rumble and if you can hear me, because we've been speaking about this for a little while now and it looks like our wishes have been granted. Rumble has released live streaming, so I'm really excited to be trying this out for the first time, going live on Rumble. And of course, we are live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So I can see Michelle, Terry, Sally, Nat, how are you? Terry, Erica, Tracy, Daniel, Christine. It's really lovely to have you here. And from my end, from the software I'm using, it looks like Rumble is not actually working. But I had a little look at the Rumble site just before, and it appears that actually it's connected. And I can see people are tuned in and making comments. But it seems that for whatever reason, the comments are not displaying through the software that I use, the multi-streaming software that I use in order to broadcast to multiple platforms. So if you are on Rumble making comments, I don't think I can see them. But tell you what, at the end of the broadcast, after we go through everything that we're going to talk about, I'll jump onto the Rumble page and I will read through the comments. So if you're on Rumble and if you have questions for me, you can put them there below and I will address them when we do our Q&A session. So I'm really excited. And you know what? We were speaking about this, weren't we? Over the past few weeks, we were saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if Rumble introduced live streaming? And I logged on the other day and I realized they had actually connected this service. It's still in its very early stages. So I registered as a premium user on Rumble in order to connect the account. So I think it's just the beginning of something really great. Really great, and you know, we can only get better and bigger from here. So without further ado, we may as well get stuck right into it, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Alrighty, so alright, India. So let's address what's going on in India. A lot of you have probably seen the news. There's a lot of reporting going on. They say they're suffering from a massive corona outbreak and the hospitals are inundated, right? That's what they're saying. So first of all, I'm going to just have a little bit of a talk about what the mainstream media is discussing and what they're saying in regards to India. And then we're going to look at some context, okay? Because many factors have been ignored about India in relation to the corona reporting. So first, I'm just going to open up my browser and we're going to have a little look at what the media is saying, okay? So here's what they're saying. Hellish second wave tsunami ripping India apart, okay? So obviously there's some fear-mongering words used in here. It says here, India's been hit by another record jump in COVID cases with almost 350,000 new infections in the past 24 hours. So that's basically the story. It says here that India sees 2,263 deaths in a day And so that's in relation to what they're claiming are corona cases. I'm not sure if it's been determined beyond reasonable doubt that all of these people had corona or something else, or whether they could be using the assumptive method that has been used in other parts of the world. Now, I want to put this in perspective for you. So when we talk about India, we're talking about a country with a massive population. From 2019, the population was recorded at 1.366 billion people, and by today, it would be even higher. Now, it's also important to point out that in India, the total daily deaths are over 25,000 people. So a question that we need to be asking ourselves here, although the numbers coming out of India appear frightening, is this excess mortality, or are these simply people who are dying at their life expectancy, people who perhaps are ready to die and have caught some type of bug, whether it is a coronavirus or something else? So that's the first question that we need to be asking ourselves, and not straight away having a knee-jerk reaction in relation to the numbers being reported. Moving on here. This is information, data from the World Bank. It says about 60% of India's nearly 1.3 billion people live on less than $3.10 per day, as in the poverty is a massive problem in India. And of course, with poverty comes bad hygiene, and people who need medical attention are often not able to get it. It says here, the World Bank's median poverty line, and 21% or more than 250 million people survive on less than $2 a day. Okay, so indicating that many people, of course, do not have access to regular and reliable healthcare. Therefore, any illness or virus or bug that an individual was to get, the average person would have a worse chance in India getting the care that they need. It's also really important to point out that when we talk about India, or more specifically Indian cities, we're talking about some of the most densely populated cities on earth, meaning that whenever there's a bug or a virus or the common cold, it spreads throughout communities very, very quickly. If we look at Mumbai here, we see, according to World Atlas, 32,303 people per square kilometre, making Mumbai the 5th most densely populated city in the world. And many other cities really echo those types of densities. We have here the population density of the city of Delhi is 11,312 people per square kilometre. And we see many cities around India. We see a lot of poverty and people living in very, very close proximity to one another. Now, why does this matter? Well, it matters because people living close to each other, and often in substandard conditions where there's bad hygiene and so forth, are very likely to transmit various diseases and illnesses very, very easily. It's not like this is the first time it's happened. So to put it in perspective, right, we look at Delhi, 11,312 people per square kilometre, or Mumbai, 32,303 people per square kilometre. Compare that to Melbourne, 453 people per square kilometre. Okay, so you really cannot make a comparison. We see people on the media and the government using fear-mongering tactics saying, hey, look at India, look at these infections that they're having, or you don't want that to happen in Australia. Well, we're comparing two very different environments, India being a developing country, and of course Australia being a developed country with a far, far lower population density. And this metric is very, very important, whether you're dealing with a coronavirus or the common cold or the flu or what have you. Now, remember on our last report, we spoke about a research study that was published by WebMD, which indicated that 1 in 5 colds are actually caused by coronaviruses. That's what the study sent. I sent it out to my subscribers, mcjreport.com, indicating that coronaviruses have been around for a long time, and it's not like it's some type of new thing that we're only just experiencing. All right, now I'm going to read to you a little bit here about some of the problems that India has with their hospital system. Now, this is coming here from NCBI, the US National Library of Medicine. Arrival time pattern and waiting time distribution of patients in the emergency outpatient department of a tertiary level healthcare institution of North India. Now, you'll see why I'm talking about this in a moment, okay? Part of the fear-mongering that has been perpetrated by the mainstream media and the politicians since the reporting on the recent corona situation in India has been in relation to the overwhelmed hospitals. And they use this concept to try and spread fear throughout the world. India's hospitals are overwhelmed. They're overcrowded. Well, let me tell you something. Overcrowded hospitals in India is not a new thing. Hospitals have been overcrowded, overwhelmed, and understaffed in India since really forever. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. This has been a constant struggle in India, providing the quest to provide healthcare, but good, decent healthcare to its population of more than 1.3 billion people. Okay, so I'm just going to read to you a little bit here. It says, Emergency Department of Tertiary Healthcare Institute in India is mostly overcrowded. Mostly overcrowded. And this is not in relation to the corona situation. This is a publication from 2014, just so you know. Overutilized and inappropriately staffed. The challenges of overcrowded EDs and ill-managed patient flow and admission processes result in excessively long waits for patients. Okay, and this has been a huge problem for India for a really, really long time. As we mentioned before, you've got high-density living, bad hygiene situations, lots of pollution. When people get sick, they pass it on to people very quickly. And of course, when they go to hospital, it's very difficult to get treatment, especially if you're just an average income earning person or worse. And of course, poverty is a massive issue in India. So that's the first issue right here. Let's have a look here. Again, the National Library of Medicine, this is from 2011. Says here, antibiotic resistance, a global concern, is particularly pressing in developing nations, including India, where the burden of infectious disease is high and healthcare spending is low. Okay, so this was from 2011, clearly indicating that problems with infectious disease in Indian society is a problem, and it's a problem that, unfortunately, the government has not been able to really take control of, really since forever. So again, a question that we need to be asking ourselves is, these people being admitted to hospital in India, do they have corona or do they not? Supposedly, it's some type of mutant strain. That's what I saw in the mainstream media. Well, is it SARS-CoV-2 or is it some type of other disease? No one's really explained that to us. No one in the media has demonstrated to us beyond reasonable doubt that this so-called mutant strain is SARS-CoV-2, or that people being admitted to hospital have all been diagnosed accurately with SARS-CoV-2. But we actually know that they can't do that due to the much studied limitations of the PCR test. Okay, I'm going to keep moving here, all right, because I still have information on India. So this is an online journal here. This is hindawi.com. And once again, mcjreport.com. I'll send you all these documents, all right? You don't have to take my word for it. Me reading off my computer screen, I'll send it to you at home and you can spend as much time as you want reading through, all right? So this is from 2014. The challenges confronting public hospitals in India, their origins and possible solutions. Okay? Again, this problem is not new. The mainstream media is using the overcrowded hospital situation in India to instill fear in your heart, yet not telling you that overcrowded hospitals has been a prevalent problem in India since basically forever. All right, so what the problems and the solutions? I'm going to read to you here. It says, main challenges confronting a public hospital. In our opinion, the main challenges confronting the public hospitals today are as follows. Deficient infrastructure, deficient manpower, unmanageable patient load. Okay, it's from 2015, unmanageable patient load. Okay, substandard quality of services and high out-of-pocket expenditure. All right, clearly indicating a huge problem with hospitals and their capability to treat people who are sick or infected with some type of illness, virus, or disease. Here's some examples to reiterate the point that I'm making right here. This is again from 2014. How India's hospitals fall short in photos. It says here, most government-run primary health centers in rural areas lack good hygiene, infrastructure, and the medical staff to provide first-rate treatment for patients. Such shortcomings result in the overcrowding of hospitals in urban areas. In cities like Calcutta, the bigger hospitals face such an overwhelmingly high number of patients that they have insufficient doctors and resources to provide good medical care. Again, it's from 2014. All right, moving forward here to businessinsider.com. This is from 2015. Indian hospitals are struggling as the heatwave death toll nears 1,500. Okay, so whenever there's a small problem, an outbreak, or some sort of public health problem, the hospitals immediately go into meltdown because they simply don't have the infrastructure and they don't have enough properly trained staff such as doctors, nurses, and so forth. Okay, this is from New Delhi. New Delhi. Hospitals in India were struggling Thursday to cope with an influx of victims of a blistering heat wave that has claimed nearly 1,500 lives in just over a week. Does anyone remember hearing about this story? Hundreds of people, mainly from the poorest sections of society, die at the height of summer every year in India, but this year's figures are unusually high. Some summers are, of course, hotter than others. Here's an article here from the New York Times. Superbugs kill India's babies and pose an overseas threat. This is coming from 2014. It says here, a deadly epidemic that could have global implications is quietly sweeping India. And among its many victims are tens of thousands of newborns dying because once miraculous cures no longer work. These infants are born with bacterial infections that are resistant to most known antibiotics, and more than 58,000 died last year as a result, a study found. I'm going to read down the article a little bit. It says here, in visits to intensive care wards in 5 Indian states, doctors reported being overwhelmed by such cases. And this is not like an isolated incident. These hospitals being overwhelmed is commonplace, all right? It says here, India's dreadful sanitation, uncontrolled use of antibiotics, and overcrowding coupled with a complete lack of monitoring the problem has created a tsunami of antibiotic resistance that is reaching just about every country in the world. See, they use the word tsunami here. They've also used that word for the corona reporting. Okay, and this is coming from a Dr. Timothy Walsh, a professor of microbiology, Cardiff University. I'm going to read to you a little bit more. It says here, some studies have found that developing countries have bacterial rates of resistance to antibiotics that are far higher than those in developed nations, with India the global focal point. Bacteria spreads easily in India, experts say, because half of Indians defecate outdoors and much of the sewage generated by those who do use toilets is untreated. As a result, Indians have among the highest rates of bacterial infections in the world and collectively take more antibiotics, which are sold over the counter here, than any other nationality. Goes on to say, in the absence of better sanitation and hygiene, we are forced to rely heavily on antibiotics to reduce infections, a local medical expert said, Vice President for Research and Policy at the Public Health Foundation of India. Okay, so pretty clear there. Of course, an unhygienic environment is a breeding ground for all types of bugs, viruses, and various infectious diseases. Moving on here to Reuters. This is battling doctor shortage. This is from 2016. It goes on to say, India has 7 doctors for every 10,000 people, half the global average, according to the World Health Organization. Data from the Indian Medical Association shows the country needs more than 50,000 critical care specialists, but it has just 8,350. This is the real crisis in India, ladies and gentlemen. This is the real crisis that has plagued India since as far back as we can look. It says here, such a shortage of doctors means small facilities in India's 55 billion private hospital market are ill-equipped to provide critical care, even as numbers seeking private healthcare rise because the public health system is in even worse shape. All right, so people needing care, not able to get care. An article here from The Guardian, how can healthcare services keep pace with the rapid growth of cities? This is in relation to India. You have a look at the smog there. Of course, a very unhealthy environment. A city with pollution is a city where people are prone to getting sick. Okay, that's just a simple matter of a fact. And of course, Indian cities, very, very polluted. It says here, many developing countries such as China, Indonesia, and India suffer from a chronic shortage of health workers. Hospital facilities are often inadequate and primary care tends to be underdeveloped. In the cities, hospitals become overcrowded because patients know that is where the best doctors, research, and technology are found. The dominance of hospital care in cities often means primary care is neglected, which, according to the World Health Organization, can lead to unregulated, unsafe, and ineffective private services. Now, to illustrate this point of overcrowded hospitals and the frustration felt by Indian people not just now, but for many, many years, there is an epidemic of violence in India aimed at healthcare workers, many of them who work in hospitals. And this could be perhaps attributable to the overcrowding of hospitals and the difficulty that many people find in accessing healthcare services. So this is from Wikipedia, violence against healthcare professionals in India. It's such a huge problem. It's been written about. You can find huge amounts of articles on this. And of course, if you want me to send this to you, mcjreport.com, go there, put your email address in, I'll send it to you. Here we go. Possible reasons for violence. The main reason attributed to violence against healthcare staff is the absence of adequate economic investment in healthcare. Healthcare accounts for only 1% of the GDP of India, which is far lower than countries with a similar GDP. Male doctors are more likely to be attacked than female doctors, and significantly more attacks happen during nighttime than daytime. Too little government funds on healthcare infrastructure results in ill-functional healthcare services. Small and medium private healthcare establishments, which provide a big share of healthcare services and are isolated and disorganized. All these factors cause dissatisfaction among the public, and they take their frustration out on doctors. Okay, here is a photo right there of what one could consider a substandard hospital in terms of cleanliness, hygiene, and so forth. So it's a big problem, and it's a problem that's been facing India for a long time. So which begs the question, why is the media refusing to leave this context out? You see, that's why I do the MCJ report. If the media was only to tell you part of the story and to tell you, well, which they are doing, hospitals are overcrowded and not actually putting it in perspective, it's very disingenuous. So that's why it's important to understand the history. So I'm going to conclude this little Indian section of the show by asking some questions and making some statements. I've written them on the screen right here. Okay, so in conclusion, over 25,000 people die in India per day. So the question we need to be asking ourselves is the death figures being reported by the media, is that a representation of excess mortality or is it not? Are these just people who are simply at their life expectancy and they died? That's the first question that I ask. Second is, we know that overcrowded hospitals is commonplace in India year in, year out. Therefore, can it be proven beyond reasonable doubt that all of these people admitted to hospital is due to corona? Is it corona or could it be something else? Okay, I don't believe that has been proven beyond reasonable doubt. The third question I have is, what is this so-called mutant strain being reported by the media? Is it closely related to SARS-CoV-2? Is it closely related to a different coronavirus? Or is it something else? That's another question that has not been addressed either. And I also have written down here a couple of statements. Statement number one is that India has a highly substandard overall healthcare system, meaning that people are, of course, more prone to illness and disease. Substandard, so lack of hospitals, lack of hospital beds, lack of medical professionals. Also, infectious bugs and diseases are common in Indian cities due to high density living, poverty, and unhygienic and unhealthy environments. Okay, it's not a new problem. It's a problem that has been around forever. So for the media to be reporting the way it is due to corona and not putting hospitalizations in context from a historical perspective and leaving out these important attributes, I would say is entirely disingenuous. And that's why I have made this report on India, to help put it into context for people at home who are maybe scratching their head thinking, what in the world is going on? I hope this section of the broadcast helped, and we'll move on with the show. Anyway, let me just make sure that people are there. There's Milan, Nikki, Susan, Christine, how are you? Aaron, Craig. Okay, great. Awesome. It's great to see you guys are connected. I can see comments from Facebook and YouTube, but I cannot see comments from Rumble. The Rumble comments are not showing up, which is a little bit unfortunate. So as I said at the end of the broadcast, I'll go to the Rumble website and I'll have to manually read the comments. Anyway, I wanted to address that. So let's keep this show on the road, shall we? All right, you can say no segment of tonight. That's right, a common fixture on the MCJ Report. We're going to cover some corona topics. What can we do? We just have to keep covering it as we see it and telling the other side of the story. That's what we do. All right, so first one here. Victoria announces $50 million to fund mRNA COVID-19 vaccine production in Australia, paving way for Pfizer-style manufacturing. All right, so we're going to start manufacturing these mRNA vaccines here. It's going to create jobs created by the government. I think the ambition in relation to the corona situation of the government is to create government-made jobs, and that would result in the population becoming ever so more dependent on the government. We've seen millions of dollars pumped into pro-vaccine visual propaganda, and it's very, very painful to think how much of our tax money the government is spending on this corona situation, spending our money in ways that we didn't vote for. If this is democracy, it needs to be improved. This is a very sad record from the VARS database from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The VARS ID is 1166062-1. The patient age is 5 months old. Now, I've read through this record, and it's not clear to me that the five-month-old received an injection. Rather, it was his mother, although I had to read through it a few times, and that's what I was able to make from this report. I'm going to read this to you. Vaccine type COVID-19, manufacturer Pfizer-BioNTech. Symptom death. I'm going to read to you the adverse event description. Patient received second dose of Pfizer vaccine on March 17th, 2020 while at work. Okay, that implies to me it was an adult working, the patient's mother. So March 18th, 2020, her 5-month-old breastfed infant developed a rash and within 24 hours was inconsolable, refusing to eat, and developed a fever. Patient brought baby to local ER where assessments were performed. Blood analysis revealed elevated liver enzymes. Infant was hospitalized but continued to decline and passed away. No known allergies, no new exposures aside from the mother's vaccination the previous day. So as you can see here, the patient age equating to approximately 5 months. Now, we don't know for sure that it was the mother's vaccination status that caused the death of this little baby boy, but it is nonetheless something that should be reported on, as it has been registered in the VARS database on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. So mcjreport.com, go and fill your email address out I will send this to you. Okay, here's something that looks very, very disturbing. Woman with giant blisters after COVID vaccine insists people should still get it. Okay, so this is what she ended up as, and she says, go out and get it. Go and do it for your community. A woman's legs erupted into painful blood-filled blisters after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. Sarah Buckman from Glasgow, Scotland, initially only developed common flu-like symptoms when she had her first dose of the jab on March 18th. But a week later, she began to feel tingling sensation in her legs and noticed a rash spreading around her ankles. All right, so she spent more than 2 weeks at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, undergoing tests with doctors who determined that she had suffered a reaction to the vaccine. The mum whose rash spread to her arms, face, and buttocks wants people to be aware of the changes it can cause to the body and what to do if they have an extreme reaction. So that's a reaction right there. Doesn't look good. Looks very painful and undesirable. And she is still recommending that other people take the vaccine, even after experiencing this. Some of you may have seen the co-creator of AstraZeneca COVID shot defends safety amid blood concerns. Well, that's to be expected, right? The co-creator. He says here, if some countries choose to use one COVID vaccine, there'll be more for the other vaccines for other countries, he told Reuters. We don't see a huge issue. So it's like we lose one customer, we find another. Well, it makes sense, right? The co-creator, He'll be the last person to admit that perhaps his product is unwanted and perhaps it is a dud. Now, is he reassuring the public of safety concerns for their own benefit, or is he doing it for the benefit of the AstraZeneca shareholders? That's the question I have for you at home. Who is he truly representing? The good of the people or the pockets of the shareholders? This is the first question I always ask when I see somebody with a vested interest making claims. Now, some good news, good corona news. Anti-lockdown protesters defy restrictions in central London march. Okay, where are we here? Yeah, so thousands of people took to the streets. Maybe some media outlets, as they always do, try to report hundreds, but thousands. Who here saw this? A huge display of social proof that Londoners are sick and tired of the COVID restrictions, as are millions of people all around the world. All right, so let's have a look at what they did, the protesters who defied restrictions. It takes a lot of bravery to defy these restrictions. If you've ever been to an anti-lockdown protest during a lockdown, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so there we go, thousands of people. Now, I've got some footage that I can show you from the actual protest. So let me see if I can get this up. Let me just make sure it's working. There it is. All right, so I'm going to play this for you right now.
The unshakable belief that the government is slowly eroding their base.
All right, so as you can see there, thousands of Londoners coming out in force to oppose the government, which is impeding on their lives. Now, just like any anti-lockdown protest during a lockdown, of course, the protesters were confronted by the police engaging in an act that I would refer to as betrayal and treachery. So I'm going to show you a brief confrontation, and maybe confrontation isn't the right word to use. You know, the media uses these types of words, confrontation or clash. It's not a clash between the public and the police. It's a matter of the police initiating violence against private citizens. That's what it is. I'm going to show it to you.
Trafalgar Square, I'm going to go with 10,000 people. Well done, UK. Amazing job.
Really, really amazing job, UK. An estimated 10,000 people. Bravo. Amazing. You know, whenever I see a protest like that, I just feel like I want to be there. So I'd like to, maybe we have some people from the UK watching right now. I'd like to wish you congratulations. Job well done. And what can I say? I can never accept somebody who turns on their fellow citizens because they're following orders. 10,000 people, it's a great start. We need to keep pushing. We need 1 million people marching in the street. When 1 million people hit the streets, what do you think the police will do about it? What are they going to do? They'll do absolutely nothing. They'll be forced to step to the side. And that's what we will have to do should our countries continue to go down the toilet. So sending lots of love and best wishes to my friends in the UK. Job well done. Keep fighting. And if we keep the pressure up, I'm confident that we will win this. Anyway, moving on to the next segment. We will remember them. I hope that you were able to pay your respects over the weekend to our brave diggers and those who have, of course, sacrificed greatly for our freedoms and have sacrificed for us to live a free life. Of course, our freedoms are being challenged right now under a government which is adhering to the non-evidence-based guidelines, or whatever you want to call it, of the World Health Organization. But of course, ANZAC Day was tarnished this year round. Perth going into a so-called snap lockdown after one positive PCR test result. But I saw some footage of one brave old digger in Perth who said that he's not willing to take it. He's not taking a bar of it. And he went out to march. And I'm going to play the clip for you right now. It really makes you feel proud to be an Australian when you see this man. I'm going to show it to you. And as far as I've been made aware, police were aware of him but did not intervene, which is a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. So it really, it's hard to put into words. It makes you proud to be an Australian, seeing one of our old diggers saying stuff you to the government and he's out there walking. But it also makes you feel incredibly sad to see the state of affairs in Australia. And something else from ANZAC Day that made me very sad, and I'm sure it will make you sad too. This old digger right here, not able to get into the shrine on ANZAC Day morning to commemorate ANZAC Day. I was sent some footage of this particular gentleman in the morning being rejected and being forced to stand outside of the fence. I'm going to show that to you right now. Yeah, so I really have no words to describe what I just saw. There's no words to describe it. These are the heroes of our country, and look at how they're being treated. This is, and you know what this is called? This is called COVID normal. I will always reject the concept of COVID normal, and we need to unite like never before to take our country back, ladies and gentlemen. Within 12 months, we're probably going to have a federal election. I dare say we have a chance of a protest vote, as in an opportunity to vote good, decent people into office and to vote out several of the traitors that currently work within the walls of our parliament. And I will have a lot more to say about that really soon. And there will be a way that you can be involved in that process, because if this is the future of Australia, God help us. Absolute disgrace. Okay, so that's the news for this evening. We can do some Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. You can ask me anything you want. So we can end the show on maybe a bit more of an upbeat tone. So you can ask me any question. Won't guarantee I'll answer any question, but you can sure as hell try. Free speech. Speaking of free speech, that reminded me of something else. One second. We will get to the Q&A. Bad news. Craig Kelly gone off Facebook. Of course, we saw it coming. The overlords at Big Tech holding the ultimate power on who can speak and who cannot. Craig has been so extremely forthright, more so than perhaps any other politician for a really long time, publishing one study after another on many topics such as alternative COVID remedies. Since leaving the Liberal Party, he's been more outspoken on topics such as the vaccine. He's in the process of introducing a bill to Parliament that is in opposition to the vaccine passports, as you can see right here. And so it's a big hit to Australia, considering that so many of the fence sitters and casual observers, they're on Facebook. They're not on Parler, they're not on Rumble. Facebook has a monopoly on narrative, social media narrative in Australia. So this is a huge blow. So we are going to have to do everything that we can to promote Craig's work. Follow his Telegram when he releases information and news and studies. We need to send it to our friends and family and get the word out there. This just really goes to show the type of fight that we are all involved in. Craig Kelly, one of the most outspoken, maybe the most outspoken in Australia against the corona situation, the unfair measures, gone off Facebook. So it's, very bad, very bad. All right, let's do some Q&A time, and I'll open up Rumble and see what's happening on the Rumble front. So let me know if you have any questions. Let's see. Grant, Craig, have I looked into Five Eyes? Everyone's too scared to bring that up. Why would people be scared to bring that up? Craig is referring to the security alliance between Canada, United States, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. New Zealand not pulling their weight in this particular arrangement. Neither is Canada, I would say, in relation to their cozy standing with the Chinese Communist Party. We're beginning to push back a little bit here in Australia against CCP tactics. But on the last show, we talk about the Scott Morrison government signing the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership last November, with China being the key trading partner. God knows what that's going to mean for our industries. So is the Five Eyes falling apart? Is it going to remain strong? I think there's more promise in some of the democratic alliances militarily that we see between the key democratic countries in the world, such as Japan and India. So I think we should be I would like to see Australia shifting to a more India, Japan, United States centric position, personally. All right. Christina says, what's my take on Anzac Day and the MCG? It's just absolute hypocrisy. It's disgusting and I'll never accept it. There's Ben Watson. How you going, my friend? Let's see. People on Rumble says it kept freezing. Doug said it was good. There was no audio. Francis, everyone's saying that it was just freezing and cutting out. And one person said it works. Some people said they could see, but they couldn't hear. Other people said it was good. So it looks like there's mixed results from Rumble regarding the live stream. They only just released it, and I want to support Rumble. So to live stream on Rumble, you actually need to purchase a subscription. It's $100 a month. I signed up to it because I figured that I want to support Rumble. I like what they're doing, and we desperately need a reliable alternative for the MCJ Report. Okay, so I'm happy to stick with Rumble because I believe in what they're doing, and I think they should be supported as a company. Is that fair enough? Let's see. Janet wants me to take a deep dive into vaccine shedding. Do you guys want me to look into that? Rumble buffering, right? And Maria says it was freezing all the time. See, that's the problem. You see, Facebook, they're so resourceful. They have such deep pockets. The technology that they use is so good. The servers, the speeds, it's excellent. So is YouTube. That's the issue, right? That's the issue. It takes big bucks to be able to provide such an advanced service. Right. Let's see. So I'll be responding to comments. I'm just having a read through. That's right, Ben. Craig Kelly is on Telegram. So if you're on Telegram, make sure you go and look him up. The issue is, of course, the fence sitters are on Facebook. They're not really on Telegram. And I'm on Telegram as well, Morgan C. Jonas. So you can go ahead and find me there. And you can subscribe. I post more on Telegram than I do on Facebook. All the news articles, everything I read. More importantly, mcjreport.com. You can go there. You can put your email address in on the homepage. Or if you'd like to enter further details, go to mcjreport.com. Click on the Stay in Touch tab. And you can pop your mobile number in and postcode. That way I can contact you if we have area-specific events. And on top of that, I am highly considering what my role will be in the next election, whether I run or not. And so therefore, I want to know where the highest concentration is of MCJ supporters so I can make the best strategic decision regarding what I do to help me with my decision. Let's see, I'm going to read here. Any questions? Just reading. No, Dane says you can't afford Rumble. You don't need to pay to use it. It's free to use. But for a content creator such as myself to do live streams, I need to pay $100 US per month. Okay? Which, to me, it's worth it because we could be taken down off the mainstream social media platforms anytime, right? YouTube has already suspended me before. Craig Kelly got kicked off Facebook. It could happen to me. Is Rumble linked to Dan Bongino? I'm not aware of any type of corporate partnership, if that's what you're asking. But Dan Bongino is on Rumble. That is true. Okay, some of you are saying to look into shedding. I'll look into it. Let's see, just reading through. Someone says, what's happening with Sanjeev Sublock? So Sanjeev, I believe, has started his own political party. Monica and I are not a part of that party. We are working on a separate operation. That is an update which I can tell you. And of course, we wish Sanjeev all the best. Selena says, do people actually believe India can process more than 300,000 PCR tests? Right. Well, there's a question right there, Selena. Did the media ever prove beyond reasonable doubt that they were conducting PCR tests? And if the PCR tests were positive, did they ever prove beyond a reasonable doubt that those positive tests meant that somebody was infectious or that somebody had corona? These are the two questions that they'll never tell you. Never. Thanks, Christine. Nick Pato says we need to stop this medical apartheid, right? Yeah. The unvaccinated versus the vaccinated. That's unfortunately the way that we're going. Thanks, Sharon. Sharon's encouraging me to get involved in politics. I'm just reading. Marie says, do I think Trump is coming back as president? I don't know. I mean, he hasn't ruled out running in the next election cycle. I saw an interview he made on Fox News the other day for the midterm elections. It seems that when President Trump endorses somebody, they have a very good chance at getting into office. So Trump's office is busy. He's endorsing Republican candidates and supporting certain people who hold the ideals of the former Trump administration. And he's focused on the House of Representatives and the Senate. So we'll see what he does. But I think that he's being very active from the sidelines. And I think that Trump is still incredibly influential. Maria says we have to support Rumble. Yeah, well, definitely as a content creator, I'm happy to support Rumble. And I hope that Rumble is able to garner the funds necessary to provide a seamless platform. Sophie says, can we look into more gender madness? Yeah, we've been covering some of that on the show, Sophie, and I'll certainly cover more. This is an existential threat, an internal threat to our existence. The degree to which certain children in school have their brains filled with very dangerous notions, okay, notions that are protected by legislation a lot of the time. So we will be going into that a lot more. Just reading through, looking for questions. I'm sort of just looking for question marks. So if you do have a question, make sure you just pop that in. And I see myself in the chat there. That's funny. Maybe no questions. A lot of statements, but not all that many questions. Ben says, is it possible that I can post the show on my Telegram account? What I'll do, Ben, is every show I upload onto Rumble. So my handle for Rumble is Morgan C. Jonas. So it's rumble.com/user/Morgan C. Jonas. Every episode I do is up on Rumble the next day. I break the show down into segments to make it easier for you to share certain parts of the show with your friends and family or on your social media. And I also email the links out the next day. So the mailing list, probably a lot of you watching right now are on the mailing list. Are you on the mailing list? No worries. Just reading down. Dale says Trump is a puppet. That's an interesting opinion. Do any of you agree with Dale, or do you see it differently? To me, it really appeared that the establishment was collaborating to do everything possible to bring Trump down. We saw collaboration between the media and Hollywood, which often fall under the one umbrella. The same media conglomerates tend to control the mainstream media and Hollywood. We of course saw the political attacks as well. Many of America's big business billionaires coming out strongly against Trump. So to me, observing, it looked like a coordinated attack, but maybe you see it differently. If so, put that in the comments. Just having a look down here. There's my friend Anthony. Anthony Lev, how you going, my brother? Always nice to see you in the chat. Let's see. I'm just reading. Where is Daniel Andrews? I've got no idea. I jokingly say that because the Belt and Road Initiative fell through, it's possible that Daniel Andrews was snatched up in the middle of the night and is now somewhere deep in a Chinese bunker. That's what the Chinese Communist Party does to people they don't like or people that let them down. Janet says, is there an update on Serene? No update at the moment as far as I'm aware. Zach, did I get your email? He asked me. I'll have to check, my friend. And there's Zach Galloway. Great guy. He runs his own show. I was on Zach's show the other day, Running from Comfort. It was great. We had a lot of fun. You should go and check out the replay, and you should have a look at Zach's work. Zach is a good guy, and I like him a lot. Christine's on the mailing list. Good stuff, Christine. Thank you. Have I seen the latest video of the Polish pastor in Canada? No, I don't think I've seen the latest one. Dan says, do I think this is going to change peacefully? Well, we hope it will, right? Our first resort is peaceful, right? When that doesn't work, we need to look at other options. That's all I'm going to say for now. Just reading through. Peter says, when's the next lockdown in Victoria? Probably as it starts getting colder. What we know about coronaviruses, they've always operated the same. This didn't change in 2020, is that they generally attack in the cold. Remember, we went through the paper from webmd.com that stated roughly 20% of colds are caused by coronaviruses and 20% of colds are caused by unknown viruses. Coronaviruses have been around for a long time, yet in 2020 we treat it so incredibly differently than when we did in the past. Why do you think that is? Put that in the comments. And there's Mel there. Mel, thank you for being in the chat and thank you for pinning my Telegram handle up the top. All right, so IMOP are doing well too. The Informed Medical Options Party, I think that they're a good option and definitely worth checking out. All right, so I'm gonna wrap the show up here in just a moment. All right, so just to end the show, if you'd like to support my work financially, you can head on over to mcjreport.com/support. This is my full-time work now, running the MCJ Report and working behind the scenes in preparation for a few different things, one of them being the next election. That's right. So yeah, you can head over to mcjreport.com/support. You can contribute for as little as $5, which helps fund the show to keep it going. If you do become a supporter, I will give you a link to the private MCJ supporters Telegram group where we throw ideas back and forth, and we also organize little get-togethers and events and things like that. Also, if you would like to become part of the solution, head on over to reignitedemocracyaustralia.com.au and you can register. So click on what's new, volunteering, and you can fill out your information and you can choose in which way you would like to join the fight. It could be handing out information in shopping centers, doing letterbox drops, or maybe you would like to put your hand up to contest in the next election, in which case, if you do, you'll be hearing from me and there's a possibility that we will be working together. That's right. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. I'll be back live again on Wednesday. And until then, take care and I'll talk to you.